Hi, we're at the conference here. We're talking with Doug from TerraMax. Doug, a lot of farmers that we spoke to have a thing about the nitrogen. Explain to me the process that you have organic stuff that can put nutrients back in the ground, correct?
Correct. We rely on these natural systems have been around for a long time. A lot of universities have studied the systems, the bacteria that mediate that process. And as you know, if you've been talking to the farmers, nitrogen is a critical nutrient to grow plants, to drive yield. And you know, most farmers, conventional farmers, will apply it via fertilizers that are produced with using chemical processes. You can do the same thing utilizing bacteria or natural processes. And so the difficulty with that is, can you harness the bacteria, keep it alive, put it in, literally, put it in a jug so you can ferment it, grow it up, put it in a jug, get it out to the farmer, it's still alive, so it can do what it is able to do.
Okay.
That's kind of in a nutshell the process. There's more complications to it. Specific ones have specific niches or plants they will interact with. Some of these have been used for hundreds of years in agriculture.
Okay.
With legumes, soybeans, for example, alfalfa. Those systems have been very well characterized. But as we developed hybrids and plants that needed more nutrition, those types of things weren't able to supply all the nutrition, particularly in grasses, corn, wheat, those kind of things. So being able to harness the natural bacterial populations capable of that is really another tool for these guys to put in their toolkit and grow plants.
So do you just have like one jug of organic material that you ship to the farmer, he sprays it on his field and he's good to go, or is there more products that you have to help tender the soil, if you will?
The answer is yes, we have more products. But when you do specific jobs, there isn't a miracle mixture. Unfortunately, in a lot of people's eyes, there's not. Maybe that's by design. Nature gets to be a little tougher to deal with. I often tell people the soil is a wonderfully buffered environment, and that's probably a good thing because we may have killed it better than we have today. So there are specific ones that azospirillum is a bacteria that is very well characterized working on corn and wheat and other grasses. So that's where you'd use that. There are other bacterial products that have been used as biocontrol agents, so disease control in situations like for those types of things.
Right.
The genetic engineering world actually took genes out of bacteria to make the genetically modified plants that they're growing. That's one of the ways they've done that.
Right.
So, and that was a bacteria that was toxic to insects, particular type of insects, and they took the gene that coded for that toxicity, that certain protein, and put it into plants. So they harvested the plants, but what they did was they took away in my opinion, the natural diversity that existed. So now we lose that buffering, and we now treated it more like a chemistry than we did the natural system. So, you know, there's a lot of different avenues, and you mentioned kind of soil health and soil tilth. We know very little about what lives in the soil. The USDA has been quoted as saying, you know, we can grow about 1% of what they're aware of being in the soil.
Oh, wow.
So microbiologically, we are almost blind.
Right.
But we do know how to grab a couple of those things and harness them again and turn them into tools for the farmer to use.
So your gallon of nitrogen, let's just call it that for talking purposes, is totally okay to use on an organic farm?
Yes, we do business with conventional farmers as well, but we formulate, or the things we put along with the bacteria, we change that for the organic world. They have certain rules and specifications that we follow specifically for them.
Right.
The bacteria is the same. But the products, the add-ons, the adjuncts that we use to have them survive so they can get their job done change
Oh, okay.
from the conventional world to the organic world.
Ah, I understand. I understand. So, a farmer, conventional farmer now is switching to organics. You've been selling them the conventional pesticide or nitrogen. Now you're trying to sell them the organic stuff. How long does it take his farm to clear up from the old conventional stuff to your new stuff? I mean, how can you test the soil? Is there a way to test the soil to know that we've cleared up the conventional farm?
There are ways to test the soil. It's actually kind of interesting where the again the USDA put a lot of time and effort into developing what they called the Healthy Soils Test Kit, and it came with a guide. And of course, being scientists, it's this incredibly involved thing. I actually bought when I went out into the field and I was using it, and I decided that I would be well dead and my grandchildren would be dead before we tested enough fields. Fortunately, in the back of the test kit guide, it says, take a spade, a shovel, go out, pop it in the ground, and pick it up, smell it, see how it crumbles. So there's tactile things you can do that are very good indicators of the health of a soil, or the potential health, if you will, of a soil. The microbes that help give soil its good tilth, put out a certain scent, that earthy scent we talk about. Okay, so there are those kind of tools we can use that they don't always have to be fancy.
Right.
Now you asked about how quickly would you clean up from a conventional farm to an organic farm, and a lot of that would depend on what the conventional farmer was doing.
Okay.
Because the variety of agricultural practices, agronomic inputs, are immense. And you shuffle the deck, a very big deck, when you talk about plant types, soil types, products they may have used. Some of the chemistries are more persistent, and you would want to do more specific things to get rid of them. I believe the standard for most organic certifying, getting your farm certified, is 3 years.
Right, correct. 3 years?
So they figure that within 3 years, whether just by stopping using those types of inputs and practices, you should be at, if you will, ground zero. And then you can build from there. Right? So in terms of our products, while in the conventional world we don't talk about them as being organic or green, that's the reality. That they're doing a job, not necessarily replacing all their inputs that they may or may not want to replace, but that is kind of the company goal. We want to be able to say, here's nitrogen fixers that can alleviate half of your applied fertilizers.
Okay.
We're getting closer to that kind of a goal, but it's difficult. We're a small company, and I kind of have a penchant for wanting data to prove what we talk about.
Right,
so,
right. It's always good to have the data there to show people and say, hey, we have the numbers.
They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I think a chart with silly numbers in it is worth 1,000 pictures. I don't get many people to agree with me on that.
So you talk about some good nitrogen, some good byproducts there. What about bugs and insects? What kind of organic products do you have to take care of those, or is there any kind of organic stuff that you would take care of those with?
There is organic products that people use in that regard. I personally feel that some of those, we're a little shy on having a good toolkit in that regard. You get into a situation where you're federally regulated, and the EPA is tasked with what I consider to be an impossible task. They are asked to make sure that products designed to kill something are safe.
Right.
It's pretty, schizophrenia runs rampant in the government, so we have done some of that, but we're a very small company, and it takes an awful lot of money to go through the process of federally registering through the EPA. The good news is there are products out there like that. I'll go back again. The genetically engineered crops, the ones targeted to go after insects, corn rootworm, for example, what they put in, the gene they put in, is actually from a bacteria. So there are other approaches available. You know, the bulk of our farming society has learned to do things in a we want to do it in a chemistry way, if you will. You know, let me buy that seed and treat it that way, and I'm successful.
Right.
The organic movement is much more holistic, and I appreciate that, because there's a lot more that goes on in nature. And the controversies around GMOs we could talk about for a long time. But I think the real take-home message is nature has insecticidal capabilities. It's learning how to harness them.
Right.
And then they have to be efficacious, they have to do their job, they have to be economical and perform in a wide range of applications. You know, those things are standard. So.
Okay, very good, very good. One last question is how do you make a lot of these festivals? You say it's the season. How many organic conferences do you go to in this time of frame?
I will be at least 3, and part of that is I enjoy them.
Okay.
As a company, we're also going to a lot of turf shows. So I have sales teams that go to turf shows, golf shows, sod farming shows. We attend conventional ag shows as well. I tend to keep the organic ones to do because I like the attitude, and quite frankly, and I agree with it.
A nice crowd here. The agreement about it, that's a very, very good, the agreement about it is a very good word to say, because you're in agreement with the fact that the GMOs are hurting our products, they're hurting the feed that we're getting,
and that we don't have to lock into one way to do things.
Right.
Think out of the box, figure out how to do production strategies. From the 30s and probably earlier than that, we got locked into this production mode. You know, my personal opinion, we kind of got sold. We have to feed the world. I think there's an obligation to another human being to help them, but I don't believe that our farmers are the only ones that should help feed the world.
Right.
There's a number of things and ways we can help that. You know, we've become very environmentally conscious, some of us, in that the practices we thought were helping weren't.
Right.
You know, nitrogen fertilizers and others, fertilizers being tied to hypoxia in the Gulf of Mexico, dead zones in the Gulf of Mexico. So, you know, and we are learning how to do that better. Biology is a complex, interlocking web of things. And anytime you say, that is the key, that is the linchpin, probably it isn't. It may be an important factor, and you need to be able to have that holistic view,
right,
I think, to get to the real goals, and that is sustainability without damaging the environment.
Oh, very good.